it see. Get up on your feet, rise up.
Welcome to another segment of the Drexel SEMA Show. Now today we are talking about organ donors. And I know there are many people who need an organ to survive. And some of us who are alive, we are hesitant about donating their organs, our organs, to anyone who's alive. But the people who have died and they died with such great organs and are able to use those organs to donate to other people so they can survive. I'm on dialysis and I need a kidney, and I know people don't think they can survive with one kidney, but they can't survive with one kidney. But it's a challenge convincing people to, to donate an organ. But today we have a story with someone I know all my life, Nurse Elaine Clare. And she, her son got into an accident, and she and her husband and family, they decided to donate his organs. We're going to talk about that story. We're going to meet one of the persons who received one of the organs. We're also going to meet someone who also sang a song in honor of the donation of this organ. So today I want to welcome Nurse Elaine Clare to my show, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Nurse Clare, as I mentioned in the introduction, you lost your son Sasha. But before we talk about Sasha, tell us about you, and then we tell us about Sasha.
Okay. My name is Elaine Clare. Everybody know me as Nurse Clare around the Turks and Caicos Islands. I'm from St. Caicos, and I'm Drex's neighbor.
Literally next door.
Yes. Yes. And I've been working at beaches for the past 24 years. So I'm meeting a lot of people there. But it was during the time of working at beaches, in 2006, when Sasha got into the accident. I was at work, and one of my co-workers called me and told me that your son was in an accident. Get somebody to bring you. He didn't tell me to drive. He said, get somebody to bring you because it does not look good.
Oh, wow.
So, but that morning, I had gone to breakfast and somebody asked me, Nurse Clare, how are you doing today? I said, I don't know. It was like I couldn't pick myself up that morning.
You didn't feel any right?
No.
You normally feel?
No. I felt down that morning. And I said, ask me that tomorrow.
Wow.
I don't know what inspired me to say, ask me that tomorrow.
That's amazing.
And it was, but the morning, because Sasha came home the Tuesday, and this was the Friday. The Friday morning, when before I went to work, I opened his room door, and he was sleeping on his back with the sheet, all the way up to his neck. And I just eased the bedroom door. I closed it. But I left some money on the dining room table with a note to him asking him to go to the bank and deposit that money for me. The weather was bad that day. And I asked, so then I sent, I wrote a note telling him, to go to the bank, deposit the money for me. But then it was around 11 o'clock or so when somebody came in the nurse's station and said this tropical storm was headed our way and they were going to close the bank at 12 o'clock. So I said, I wonder if Sasha had already left home. So I called my extension for home, and he answered the phone. I said, oh, good. I said, Sash, somebody just came and said that the bank was closing at 12 o'clock. I said, so you don't, this is already 11:30. You haven't left home as yet, so you don't have to go and deposit the money anymore. So anyway, he said, okay, mommy. He said, but I'm going to ride my bike, my motorbike, down to Alvin at the power station. Alvin is going to change the tire on the bike for me because somebody had the bike to sell for Sasha, but they didn't sell it. They were riding the bike. So anyway, Sasha, so when he said that he was going to carry the bike down to Alvin at the power station for Alvin to change the tire, I told him, I said, Sasha, you know that I don't want you riding that bike without your helmet. So he said, I know, mommy, but I am going to take you, I'm going to drop the bike off and I'll come back and get your Jeep so that when I go back and pick up my bike, I will leave your Jeep there and then go back and pick it up. So when it was this accident, I knew exactly where my Jeep was. It was PPC at that time. That is now Fortis. Yes. So he did. So he paused and then he said, "Mommy, I love you." And I said, "I love you too." And we hung up the phone. That was our last conversation.
Wow. Wow.
It was a different, "Mommy, I love you." You know, he had emphasis in, "Mommy, I love you."
Oh.
I said, "I love you too." Hung up the phone. That was our last conversation. Until when somebody took me up there by the accident site there. I could not imagine the amount of vehicles and the amount of people who were out there.
I was there.
And it was like I was the last person to know that he had been in that accident. Butch was the general manager over at Pine Key Dan. And in screaming, I had to call Butch to tell Butch that Sasha was in an accident. You know?
Yeah.
So, but in all of that, because he was taken to the Myrtle Reaping.
I went to the hospital.
Yeah, he was taken there, and then they called for the air ambulance to take him into Florida. So I didn't, he came home the Tuesday, and he was supposed to leave the Saturday morning to go back. But the Saturday morning, that was the flight that I had to take to go into Florida, because I couldn't go on the air ambulance. I didn't have a visa in my passport, so that they wouldn't allow me to fly on the air ambulance with them. But the amount of amazing people that I have met through Sasha's death. I've given talks different places in Florida. Life Alliance at Jackson Memorial Hospital. They flew Sasha's son, Shoshano, and I, all expenses paid, and with a chaperone, to the Rose Parade in Pasadena, California, because they honored Sasha on their Donate Life float.
That's amazing. That
year, 2011, New Year's Day, 2011.
Wow.
Yes.
So, wow, what an incredible story. What an incredible story. It's like, you know, life is something.
That's right.
And what made you decide to donate organs?
Okay.
His organs.
When the doctor told me that he was brain dead and there was nothing else that they could do for him, the doctor also said that his heart had a murmur. So, you know, somebody was going to come and talk to me to ask me to donate his organs. Somebody from Jackson Hospital, from Life Alliance there, Jackson Hospital. And it was a team of 2 doctors that came from there. So they took Butch and I, along with the lady Lisa, who owns Trinity Air Ambulance. They still come in here. And Lisa said, "I will go with you." I was meeting Lisa for the first time, you know. So it was Lisa, Butch, myself, along with the 2 doctors who came to ask for Sasha's organs. So when they came and they asked, I said, no. Because donating organs was, I had heard about it before.
But not part of our culture.
No,
Yeah.
no. So anyway, as we walked out of the room, one of the doctors turned to me and said, "You'll have to find a funeral home and an autopsy will have to be done." So I said, "An autopsy? I've sat through so many autopsies, and all they do is to cut up everything, and that goes into the incinerator." I said, on second thought, I will donate his organs because I can't see them just cutting them up and throwing them away when other people can use them.
Great gesture.
So then he asked me, he said, "Okay." He said, "But his heart have a murmur. We wouldn't be able to use his heart." Said, "But we'll have to do, blood transfusions for him before we could take the organs." So I said, "Okay." And that was the best yes of my life, to say, yes, I will donate his organs. And then the process started, because they said that they wanted his notes from here and so forth. So I had to call Dr. Ewing.
Okay.
I had to call Dr. Ewing and ask him. I told him they can't, somewhere in the process, they couldn't find his notes, his medical records from here. So I had to call Dr. Ewing and ask him, if he can send them. They gave me the email and a fax number for Dr. Ewing to send them again, for them to start the process. Then they transfused him. And they told me that they were going to they were going to take him the following day, because his accident was the Friday afternoon around 5 o'clock. And when they flew him, but it was the Sunday morning when they said that they would take him to harvest his organs, but then they couldn't get out operating theater at the time. So then they said, "Okay, we will take him the Sunday afternoon." And they still couldn't find our operating theater. So in all of that, with them transfusing him, the murmur went away.
Really?
The murmur went away.
Amazing.
And then they said
they could use the heart.
They could use the heart.
Amazing.
Yes, it was a miracle.
It is.
It was a miracle. And when they took him, I think it was the Monday afternoon, like after 1 o'clock, was when they finally found a theater so that they could harvest his organs. And when they took him, that was when, all of us went home. And it was at midnight, the Monday night, exactly 12 o'clock, when somebody woke me up, somebody in the house woke me up and said, "There's a doctor on the phone who wants to speak to you." So in talking to the doctor, he said, "We've just finished removing his heart. We will go on to remove the other organs."
Okay.
So it was the 7th of August. His accident was on the 4th. That's my sister Yolanda's birthday.
Okay.
And then it was the 7th when they took his organs. And then it was into the 8th of August when Michael got his heart. So I was told that, Michael got his heart. Everything is anonymous between the parties.
Right.
It was a 75-year-old man who got 1 kidney. An 11-year-old boy got 1 kidney. And a 67-year-old man got his liver.
Wow. So that's 3 different people.
That's 4.
That's 4 individuals.
Yes.
Who were able to.
His heart, his 2 kidneys,
Oh, yes.
and his liver. And I was told that they were going to use his long bones, they were going to use his eyes, and they were going to use tissue and bone marrow. So then I asked, would I be able to have an open casket funeral? And they told me yes, they would fix him so that I can have an open casket funeral.
Wow, well, thank you so much, you know, for sharing this story, and I hope, you know, people listening to this story, they will be encouraged, you know, to have, you know, if any member, unfortunately, their family members were to die, that they'll be able to, you know, agree to donate their organs to others. So next segment of the show, I want to meet Michael. Michael is one of the persons, he received the heart. I want to meet Michael. We're going to have a conversation with Michael. We're going to also meet Jody, who sang a song.
Okay.
So we're going to just 1 minute break, and we'll meet Michael.
Okay.
Listen to Nurse Clare talk about her story, about her son, Sasha, who died over 13 years ago? 15 years ago. And today, we're now going to meet Michael. Michael received his liver.
No, heart.
His heart. His heart.
Yes,
Sorry about that.
guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Michael, how did you and Nurse Clare connect in the first place? How did you connect?
Okay. It all started like after I did my recovery. Like I'd say maybe about a year after the recovery and all that stuff. I was asked by Life Alliance through a cousin of mine that she worked there through my wife, actually my wife's cousin. So she asked me to come visit. So I went to visit, and I met a lady named Rosetta Roll Hilton, and she was one of the nurses there that did the events. And the first event that I did with her was Martin Luther King Day Parade. We used to have a float, and we used to go down from 54th Street in Miami all the way across to like I think 27th Avenue, way back down there for the parade. So I did that for a few years, and then we started going out more to like events out there, like churches, schools, you know, different venues, trying to educate people on organ donation. And I was like, what she put it, I would quote what she said, I'm the poster child for Life Alliance, you know, because of the incredible story,
Right.
you know, and everything that I went through. So we started doing something called Gospel for Life, and that was at FMU in Miami. And I remember that one day that, you know, we went to do it, you know, we was there and everything. And prior to that, she had asked me, she said, you know, you would be the guest speaker for this event. So I said, okay. So we got there, and there was like, of course, there's a lot of people that attend those venues, like especially Gospel for Life. So after they had some performances and stuff and some stories, it was my turn to go up and to testify and give my story. And I started, like, I remember I started talking. I was like really choked up, you know, and Elaine might remember that because she was singing that. And I was trying to tell it as best as I could, you know. And every time and I think about it and what I went through, and it's like, you know, it's like it causes a knot in my throat, you know. I just feel like crying or whatever, you know.
Emotional.
So I started giving the story and stuff, and telling them a little bit about myself and what happened. And then I got to the part where I said, well, I remember that, you know, the doctors and the nurses telling me that it was from, you know, the heart was from a young person, a motorcycle accident. And I think that was about all that I know. You know, there was no names or nothing, and that's all they gave me. And then when they told me, a nurse friend of mine, you know, she's also from Trinidad, And she told me that the heart came from Memorial Regional. So she said, from your neighborhood. I said, yeah, really? She said, yeah. And so I was putting a date, you know, like I was there, and Elaine was, well, she was in the back, and I guess she put like, you know, she put the 101 together, you know, the hospital, the gate, and wherever, you know. And she said, like, so after the concert, everybody, like, you know, they went outside and stuff. I'm like talking to a few people in the hall, and I remember seeing Elaine walking up like really slow, you know, coming up, and she had like, I could see it through her glasses, you know, like it's like a pool, like the pool, two pools, like with the light reflecting off of it, you know. So I, you know, I knew she had tears in her eye. And then she walked up to me, and you know, she was coming towards me, and I'm watching her. I'm like trying to answer questions and stuff. And then she comes up to me, and I think I remember her saying, as you know, I have something to tell you. You know, I said, okay, you know, go ahead. She said, can I, you know, I think she said, can I tell you? I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. You know, and I remember her telling me, you know, I think you have my son's heart. And I looked at her and I said, really? And she said, yeah. So I said, I'll give you 1 second. So I think I sent somebody to look for Rosetta, because she was my coordinator at that time. And I remember Gillian coming in. She was actually the boss. She came into the room. I think she knew Elaine. You know, she knew Elaine, and I don't think Rosetta knew her. But when she saw that, she looked at me and she goes, "Oh my God, no! You're not supposed to meet like this." No. You know. And I'm like, I'm there, and like, you know, I'm kind of like feeling kind of shaky a little bit. You know, nothing yet. You know, just kind of scared. And she's saying, you know, you're supposed to meet. And then Rosetta come in, and she's like, "Oh no," and all that stuff. You know, so everybody started talking and stuff, and Elaine, and once I saw that commotion going on, and you're not supposed to meet like this, then I knew it was true. Yeah. Then Elaine went on to tell me, I had written Elaine thanking her for the heart, you know, because they monitor and they edit anything. We can't put names like last names and stuff, only first names. So I remember she was telling me she got my letter, she got my postcard. And one of the postcards, well, she described it. There was a dog. I think you remember that, Elaine. I think there was like a dog and one of the. I can't remember what it looked like. But anyway, when she described that, then I knew it was her. Yeah, amazing. I knew it was her. Amazing. And that's when my niece started giving away. You know, and she grabbed me, and she hugged me, and I was crying and she was crying. Wow. Wow. My niece buckled. I had to lean up against the wall. Wow. You know, and I'm crying there, and she's there, and tears coming out. Why? People standing there. Who was there? They were crying.
Yes, and they were
crying.
Watching.
Wow. Yeah, there were people were just crying there. And that's when she put her head on my chest. She didn't say anything yet. She was just like listening. You know, and then she was like, she was talking to Sasha. You know, Sasha, it's mommy. Oh. It's mommy. Oh. You know, that like took me away. That was it. You know, it just took me away. I didn't know what to do again. You know, I had to lean on the wall all through the time because I was gonna fall. I think I was gonna fall down. You know, and we just stood there. We hugged and you know we talked and we were laughing and stuff. You know, and my wife was there, and I remember them saying like we were there for quite a while. You know, talking to each other and trying to get our stuff together. Yeah. Then they said that they're closing the hall. So we went outside into the parking lot. And talked. Everybody, I think Papi was there. I think Gama was there. And you know, a few of
it was Mercedes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Sadie was there.
Yes.
Okay. So we all went into the parking lot and we spent some time out there talking and kind of like trying to link up and trying to make some dates and whatever and stuff. And you know, from there on,
You develop a relationship.
yeah, it started from there.
Okay.
It started from there,
Right.
and we kept in touch and everything. You know, my first trip, which wasn't a happy one, you know, because that was for Papi's funeral.
Yeah, Daddy, my father.
Oh, you were-
my father's
oh, you
funeral,
were
he came
Turks and
home.
Caicos. Okay.
Yes, he came
Yeah,
home.
yeah. But the first, I mean, I was excited, you know, I was going there to meet the family and stuff, you know, but it wasn't a nice occasion.
Right.
You know, but from the airplane, when I got to Miami Airport, and I'm sitting there with the mask on, and I was in first class actually. My brother works for American, so he hooked me up. So I'm sitting there in first class, and I have my mask on and everything. And the flight attendant, like, she's watching me and stuff, you know. And I said, don't get scared, you know. I have to wear a mask because, you know, I had a heart transplant, and I need to keep my face. She said, a heart transplant? Mm-hmm. She said, really? And she said, I've never met somebody with a transplant or heart transplant.
Wow.
And right away we started talking and stuff, and she got on the thing, and she was talking with the captain, and she was telling him that, you know, we have somebody sitting in front here who had a heart transplant. After when we talked on the flight going down, but when we got to the airport, when we landed, the captain came out to meet me. the two pilots came out to meet me. You know, they were amazed. You know, they would say, "Wow, you know." Yeah, they couldn't believe it, you know. And then when I left there, and Elaine was actually waiting inside, I think it was immigration. She was inside by immigration.
Okay.
She was waiting, you know. So I got in there, and from everybody, like a lot of people in immigration, I went there, like, you know, I met people starting from there, you know, and you was telling them, this is the person I got Sasha's heart. There was like a whole ton of people there. And then customs, I got to customs, but the same thing.
Same thing.
Outside the airport terminal, inside the terminal, there were so many people because, you know, I took it to myself and I said, you know, Elaine is like, everybody knows Elaine.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, we go everywhere we go. Yeah, everywhere we go. It was like, it was such a big thing, you know, everybody was like, I met hundreds and hundreds of people.
It's like, you know, family. Everybody's like family in the island.
Yeah.
So Michael, I mean, how long were you waiting for a heart?
Okay, on the list, waiting on the list, 18 months.
18 months, okay.
18 months on the list, yeah.
Okay.
But before that?
And prior to that, I got sick when I was 37. They detected that I had congestive heart failure.
Okay.
And I started getting treatment and stuff, and after all those treatments, you know, the doctors tried everything, and that's in New York. And then she finally said to me, she said,
you need to,
we're trying everything. She said, do you have any family in Florida? I said, yeah, I do have my brother and my sister down there. She said, will you consider moving there? I said, why? She said, well, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to sound nice, but, you know, I'm going to put it as gentle as good, you know. She said, you are going to need a heart transplant. Well, I was shocked. I was sitting there, and I'm like, do I really need one? She said, yeah, you do. Then your heart is failing, and for the past few years, we've been trying. You know, because I spent a lot of time in the hospital in New York too.
Wow.
So she says, I want you, if you don't mind, and you don't mind moving to Florida, I want you to take a trip there and see if you like it. You know, so I took the trip, and the first trip I came down and said, I think I could live here. So I went back, and I talked with my wife, my doctor, and I said, listen, I said, okay, I think I could probably live there. It's warm and everything. She says to me, okay, I have to sell out my house in New York, everything, and let's pack up and leave and come to Florida. So I made a couple more trips because I was looking for a house to buy. And finally, I found a house, and I moved down here first. You know, I moved here first. My two daughters and my wife stayed in New York until I was settled in for like about a month or so. and then my family moved down. But when I got here, I was already not feeling well. So my sister and my brother down here, they were like looking out for me and stuff, you know. But when my wife and them came, I started getting worse and worse. I used to spend at Memorial, at the hospital where they had Sasha. I spent weeks and weeks at a time there. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you know, at a time.
Yeah.
And that went on for like about a year, 1 year, a little over a year.
Okay.
And then my doctor in New York, she says that you're actually going to have to go try to get, you know, go to Jackson Memorial, because Jackson is where our contacts were. So what she did was she took all my records and she sent it directly to the cardiologist in Jackson.
Okay.
So when they got everything, there was a kind of a big fight to get me out of Memorial to Jackson, because you know, I think it was insurance reasons, because you know they probably didn't want to lose all that money. So they were like, you know, arguing each other and stuff, and finally there was a nurse called Bridget. She actually was the person in charge of getting me there. So when they agreed with everything, they sent an ambulance to pick me up. I was really weak at that time, really, really weak. So they took me to Jackson and they worked me up. They did a total workup on me just to get, so that I could get on the list. So when they did the workup and everything, they started treating me and whatever. So I came out of the hospital. I was home and doing whatever I had to do. I was feeling better. I'm taking medicines that the doctors are giving me, and they try to work with me. And that's maybe like another year I spent at home.
Okay.
You know, taking medicines and stuff and everything.
Well, I tell you, I mean, God has a way of connecting everything. You know, Sasha, right in Florida, and there you are in Florida. Now, that's incredible. And I want to. Awesome. Thank you for sharing your story, Michael. We also have another gentleman on the show. His name is Jordy, and I want him to introduce himself and tell us, you know, how he fit into this. How, you know, he wrote a song, beautiful song, and so about this process of you getting Sasha's heart. So, Jordy, welcome to my show, and tell people who you are.
Thank you. Well, I'm coming to you from Houston, Texas, and I just all this story that you've heard, I learned about. I happened to be in Fort Lauderdale visiting, and the next day I was going to Turks and Caicos on a trip, and I took an Uber to a friend's engagement party from Fort Lauderdale to Miami, and my Uber driver was Michael.
Wow.
And so I noticed that he had an accent, and I said, since I was going to Turks and Caicos the next day, I said, "Excuse me, but do you happen to be from Turks and Caicos?" And I didn't explain it, and he said, "No, but my heart is from Turks and Caicos." And I was just sitting in the back seat, and I'm like, I wonder what that means. But fortunately, Michael is a very open person, and we had an hour, you know. So I heard the whole story, and we talked about it. I was, you know, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
And Michael said, you know, something like, you know, people have told me this story is like a movie, you know, that we should make a movie out of it somehow. If I can find a writer or something. And I said, well, I don't write movies, but I write songs. And I said, you know, I almost am embarrassed to ask, but if I were to write a song, do you think that would be okay? And he said, oh, that would be amazing. And we talked about Elaine, of course, and about Sasha. And he said, you know, when you go to Turks and Caicos, you should meet Elaine. And he told me this whole story that you've heard today. I learned this whole story in that 1 hour trip. You know, overall, the whole story in general, right? And so I met Elaine just a few days later when I was in Turks and Caicos. We met for coffee, and she told me her amazing story. And as it happened, she told me later, she said, you know, Sasha always comes to me around his birthday. We met on a Wednesday, and that Friday was Sasha's birthday. And she said, he always comes to me every year in some way. And this year he came through you, you know. And I was like, wow, that's, you know, again, more goosebumps, right? And when you're a songwriter, you know, you look for beauty and for truth around you, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, the story just resonated, and it was like, it set off all the bells. Yeah. This is a beautiful story that will touch people's heart, you know, literally, right? And so, but I was also very afraid of the story. I went home after the trip. I told many people the story. People immediately react to the story like, wow, that's an amazing story. And for 7 months, I was afraid of writing the song. And finally, 7 months later, I start writing the song. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this by myself. I'm not going to work with another writer. I'm just going to do it myself. And literally just 3 or 4 days later, for the first time in 7 months, I get a message from Elaine telling me, you know, this is the anniversary of Michael's transplant, you know. And I was like, well, that's amazing, because I haven't heard from you, but I just started writing the song. And so I knew that I had to finish the song, and I was able to finish it. I sent it to Michael and to Elaine and said, what do you think? And then they really liked it. And anyway, that was in 2019. And finally, you know, almost 3 years later, a little over 3 years later, I've released the song on my next record. I was just about to release a new record, and now I have a new record that was just released February 1st, and this song is on that record. And so anyway, it's just a real honor. It was an amazing experience, and I made some wonderful friends as a result of the experience, and I'm glad they've been a part of the journey. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Do you mind just singing like, at least the first few lines of the song before we conclude this interview?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's funny when you hear a story. We spent, I don't know, 20 minutes or 30 minutes talking about it, but trying to tell the whole story in just 5 minutes, which is a long song for me. So it starts off, Michael's looking for a heart, one that's strong and well. This one keeps him dizzy, breathless in his chair. He used to be a freight train, charging smoke and steam. Lately he's just waiting, trying to believe in a story that might not come true. And then it talks about Elaine. Well, Sasha's talking to Elaine about Elaine. My mama's looking for a heart, one that left too soon. It was on the Leeward Highway one August afternoon, like vapors from the wreckage and the puddled gasoline, like prayers from the All Saints Church. Right across the street I flew skyward, fading to blue. And then the chorus says, I hear you asking, where are you now? If love never ends, would you show us somehow? I'm here in the silence, hidden from view, in the space between heartbeats with you. Less than a heartbeat from you. And it goes on from there to tell the whole story.
Wow. Wow, thank you so much, Jordy. What an incredible, amazing song. Beautiful, beautiful song. I love it, I love it. And thank you, Michael. Thank you, Elaine.
You're welcome.
For being on the show today to share this incredible story about, you know, the donation of Sasha's organs, you know, his kidney, both kidneys, his heart and his liver. And it's an incredible story. And, you know, death is a sad thing that happens to people, but something great came out of the death of Sasha. Nobody wants to see their loved one die, but something great came out of the death of Sasha. That 4 more individuals was able to survive because of Sasha. And I just want to say thank you so much, Elaine, for being obedient and donating his organs. And I just want to thank God for allowing all of us to connect and allowing Sasha's organs to be able to be used in some of those organs.
You know.
And I do hope after.
Before we go.
Yes.
Yeah. Before we go.
Yes.
I remember in the hospital there used to be a nun who used to take care of me in the hospital after the transplant. And the priest used to come. They used to give me a communion on Sundays, and they told me. They said, both of them, they said to me that, you know, there's a reason why you're here. God has a reason for you being here.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
He works, everything works together for good.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Michael would still be around 15 years later?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's right.
You didn't mention to me the other day, she said, like, you know, like, my wife just passed away last year.
Oh.
And from COVID.
Oh,
so
sorry to hear that.
Elaine was mentioning to me, she says, I always thought you were going to go before Vanda.
That's right.
You know, and my wife, she was gone.
Wow.
That was it.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And Michael had COVID and he survived.
Yeah, I had
God
COVID.
bless
I
you.
ended up in the hospital too, and the doctor, she told me when I was leaving, she says, you're one lucky guy, you know that, right?
You're blessed. You're
God have you
blessed.
covered.
I told her, that's why I said I'm blessed.
Yes.
That's
I'm
right.
blessed,
That's
this
right.
is just one of the hurdles.
Yeah.
One of my hurdles.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
thank you, everybody. And you've been watching the Drexel SEMA show. And I do hope that this show encourages individuals to consider donating organs. And I hope even in the Caribbean where we do not do this, I think most Caribbean islands are not doing this. Maybe it's something that they need to consider, having units in their hospitals or wherever they want to do it, where they could have organs there to help others who in need of an organ. And God is such an amazing God, a way of putting everything together. And so thank you for watching the show. I do hope that you are encouraged and inspired. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.